I remembered to hit record this time, like right at the last second. I remembered. I completely nearly forgot. How's it going?
I'm good. What's up?
Oh, we're back again with another show, another script, another bunch of things to
Yep.
discuss. Starting the weekend off, evening off strong. Um, and also another benefit, I got the right episode number on the opening title this week. Last week I accidentally did the wrong one.
Oh, it's okay.
It happens. It
I
happens.
yeah, I completely misplaced an intro this week, so
I know. I
anything can
felt
happen.
I felt your pain. I mean, like I was joking. Like maybe you need like a digital maid assistant to come in and be like, "Oh, this is where all your files are. It's a mess. Let's just sort it this way."
I wish I was so sure I knew where it was. I actually after this stream I should look for it again. I'm still looking for it.
Yeah, I had to since I started this one. And I realized, oh, I'm gonna have all these output video recordings and stuff. I have to find a place to store it, like default it. So I figured out which drive it's gonna be in, and then I made a shortcut to my desktop, and I cleaned up my desktop, so I only have like 2 dozen things on it, so I can see where everything's going to be. And then anytime I come up with something new, I gotta think long and hard. Do I want this on my desktop, or can I find like a default auto direct where I know this is always gonna be? Because once you get too many things on your desktop, it's like looking at spaghetti on the wall. Like you can see it all, you just can't comprehend what's it doing there.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so glad to have you back on this one. It's been a couple of episodes, but we got an interesting script this week, um, it's definitely in a different type of context than what we normally do. We haven't done too many of these types of scripts in a while, so that's why I'm glad to have you on for this one, because we get to have that fun conversation for these types.
For sure.
Okay, so I see here that we're 5 by 5, audio wise. So, okay, Price Man, let's get started. Welcome to Scripts on Saturdays, the only screenplay review show on the interwebs, discussing scripts both professional and amateur, circulating around Hollywood, giving you, the TV and movie-going audience, behind the scenes and inside track on what writers are pushing and what producers are buying. I am your host, the Script Doctor, and joining me this week is returning champion, Price of Reason. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, and it's great to be here again. It's been a minute, so I'm happy that we were able to do this.
Yeah, it's been so, like, for those that don't know, in some cases when I set up, the shows that we're doing, some co-hosts reach out to me months in advance to say, "Oh, I want to do this script, or I want to do that script, or I want to do this script," and then some hosts will say, "Oh, I want to do this script," and then last minute be like, "Oh, something came up, I can't do it." All right, who is the second person who asked, or who can I reach out to quick that I know is available? And usually you, Price, you're like always there, which is absolutely fantastic. Um, and but this week I got you in early without having to pick up, so we got a proper
Yeah,
schedule
no,
thing for you.
you gave me a little bit more time, more of a heads up. But yeah, I'm always happy to do it. I mean, first of all, we also do some other streams together,
Right.
and I also know that feeling. So I guess we're already doing this kind of stuff anyways, and I also know the feeling that you're trying to put on a stream, and then you just need the right people to work like with your partners, or just need somebody to jump in. Like you said now with the intro, that you felt that. I feel that when you have something where you're trying to put this together and you need that person, and I get that feeling too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always hate it when I'm on the other end of the things where, like, oh, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm going to go do this stream on this show or something. And then life comes up and says, nope, you're not doing that today. And you're like, no, come on. This is like vacation for me. Daily stuff, but it helps. So I'm glad that we got you here for this week's script, because this week's script it's softer. It's a softer story than what normally a lot of scripts kind of circulate around that make their way on this list. And this just be a good chase, a different type of pace for us, because this week's script that we are reviewing is called Toluca Lake.
Yep.
And this placed 31st on the 2024 Blacklist with 15 votes, and it's written by Mark Fleming. Price, share with us the log line for Toluca Lake, please.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up now.
Sure.
The log line is, when Gavin discovers the girl of his dreams is actually a persistent hallucination caused by a rapidly growing brain tumor, he's forced to question what's real, what really matters, and what's the best way to end things with someone that's slowly or not so slowly killing him.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so the synopsis as follows. Reeling from his father's death, Gavin uproots his grieving mother and young adopted sister to L.A. and unexpectedly falls hard for Allie. Their connection feels real and healing until bizarre moments make others insist she was never there. As Gavin races to understand what's happening, a devastating diagnosis forces him to face one terrifying question. Is the woman he loves actually real, or something far more dangerous? So, this kind of feels, I would say, like a Hallmark movie. As we were talking in the green room earlier, right? It's got, drama, but it also has this theme of like love and connection and family. So what were your first initial thoughts of the script, Bryce?
My initial thoughts were that it's probably not the worst script that we've gone over, but at the same time, I just I didn't know if there was something that really stood out at the same time. So it's sort of a strange feeling I had about it. You were telling me before the stream that you felt that it was like at least an easy, quick read, and that I liked. I liked the fact that it didn't take me a long time to read it. There's a lot of dialogue. It's also pretty simple, so it doesn't require descriptions every second of like 70 buildings and like world building. It's not some crazy sci-fi thing that you're trying to understand all these concepts. It's a very, very simple and straightforward screenplay. At least that's something, I guess.
Well, this is very effectively written. Like, Mark Fleming clearly has a talent for conveying imagery in as few words as possible, but also making dialogue stand out enough that you can see distinct characters. Because I will say, this script has a handful of characters, and there are some that are very basic. Like, you have some doctors in this story because, of course, it deals with, this hallucination that's killing our main character. And the doctors, they're played very straight. Some have one character has some depth to them. Another character, it's just matter of fact. I'm a cold-hearted doctor with a bedside manner. That's tolerable, but not insulting. And I'm just here to do my job. That type of character. Those are pretty much fine in the supporting roles when you're dealing with, a story that involves, in this case here, a benign tumor that's causing some issues with our main character.
Yep.
But it's a simple read. It does have a little bit of ambiguity at the start with it because we open... So it does this one thing that always bothers me because more often than not it's done poorly, and that is you start kind of late into your story and then you do a flashback of how you got to this position, right? So in this case here... Oh, sorry, what was that?
No, I was agreeing with you, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So in this case here, we start in an examination room, and there's, a male voice over the speaker. Gavin, our main character, he's inside the fMRI device, and the one thing that's kind of weird is that his girlfriend, Allie, is right there next to him holding his hand. You don't usually have those situations in an MRI machine, but
Right.
This is not an error with the script. This is actually a little bit of foreshadowing of what's going on here. And, we find out that this person is named Dr. Fisher, and he's going to ask Gavin some questions while they're scanning his brain to see how his brain reacts. And some of the questions seem like kind of normal. Like, the first question is from the doctor saying, like, are you and your girlfriend able to physically connect, as in intimacy? And Gavin, Gavin says, well, no, there's no issue there, and it's very amazing. And then of course Allie pipes up, and she says, I think he's referring to if we're actually having sex, and it doesn't matter if it's amazing or not, just confirming if it's possible. And we're getting like kind of this weird line of questioning about why is this doctor interested in his girlfriend, and then we jump into the past, and it's a new apartment, and we meet Gavin's mom, who she's in her 60s, she's Vietnamese. We find out Gavin is mixed, which isn't really relevant at all in this case. It's there to be there. And then we meet Ruby, who is a 3-year-old girl. She's from Cambodia, and she's the newly adopted sister of Gavin. So like there's this massive 20-year age difference or so, give or take. And the way that the writer introduces Ruby, we're not quite sure that she is his sister yet. When I was reading it, I thought, oh, this is his daughter, and maybe he lost her mother somehow. Like either she left him or she passed away or some other circumstances. But the relationship was kind of weird because what we learn pretty quickly in this opening scene, which is relatively effective, is that Gavin has rented 2 apartments in this complex, one for himself and one for his mother and his sister. So they're not living all together as a family. He's got his privacy, and he's got his mother and his sister across the courtyard. So that struck me as a little odd, but they do set up these little hints here of the situation. One being is that Gavin's father recently passed away, and it was rather sudden. And his mother, Thon, I guess it's Thon, or Thana, or Thon. It's Thanh. I don't know how to pronounce that. Do you know how to pronounce that?
Thon?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I think in my head I just said Thon.
I think
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I was thinking Thon, and then I was thinking about Khan, and then Thrawn, and all the other rhyming names.
The Wrath of Thon.
The Wrath of Thon, which this mother does not have a wrath to her, which is she's a very sweet but very grieving woman, and yeah, so I thought it was kind of odd that he would still have that separation there. I mean, I understand privacy as a 20-year-old, but when you're a recent widow and you have this new child as a responsibility, you kind of need pretty easy access to support. Also need to be more responsible with your finances. And we understand in the script that Gavin, he left his job to come out here, and so he doesn't have a job. He has no employment, so he's living off of savings and whatever his father estate left to him, and it's not a whole lot, but it's enough to kind of relocate to LA. We don't know why he decided to go to LA other than the weather. It's better weather.
Right. But do they now live with him? Because I thought he was going to another apartment in the same complex. Did he rent a separate apartment to them?
Yeah, he has a separate apartment. So he's on the main floor of the courtyard.
That's kind of a lot to, 2 apartments in LA if you're unemployed and kind of a weirdo, but I'll just go with it.
Yeah. And he has weird habits too, because he shows his mother and his new sister the apartment. His new sister's excited to have her own room. And he leaves the apartment, but he leaves his phone and keys in his mom's apartment, and then leaves, and then realizes, oh, I forgot my phone he got his phone, but he leaves his keys there. He forgets his keys, tries to go back, and the door's locked. Decides he'll go around the back entrance, but sees his mom and Ruby kind of settling with TV. Decides he's not going to disturb them, so he just wanders around for a couple of hours. I guess to let them settle in before he decides to head back home. And this is where we get into this part really quick, like within 6-7 pages or so. So the pacing is right on board. And so he's wandering around, and he ends up seeing this very beautiful woman sitting on a bench named Allie, and he decides to approach her. And they hit it off, and I was wondering, like, from your perspective, Price, how did you find this type of meet cute scene? If it stuck around or not in your head.
It's all right, I guess. I don't know. Listen, I'll tell you what.
Sure.
I'm not the biggest like kind of romantic things, romantic movies or whatever it is. I'm sure that this type of scene appeals to somebody. It didn't really do a whole lot for me, but I
Hmm.
don't want to be mean because I assume that if you like stuff that's more like, it's I don't think this is a rom-com, but I'm saying if you like more romance and stuff, I
Hmm.
suppose it's all right. You know, he met her on a bench, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, he meets her on a bench, and we find out that they're both from the East Coast, and she lives near Toluca Lake, which is by Burbank. And, they have a little fun talk about, I didn't know LA had lakes, and, joke is that, well, it's in the name, right? So clearly there'd be something there.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Maybe they're
and
trying to think of like Silver Lake or something like that. There's probably,
yeah,
I,
well, I
I mean,
mean,
there are. I understand the humor here. I guess
yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, the other part is, like, there are some places within North America where there used to be a lake there. There isn't a lake,
All
and they
right.
named it a lake, and there isn't a lake anymore. Toluca Lake's not that. Um, but yeah, like they're having this kind of flirtation. It's a pretty solid one, and it's he challenges Allie. He's like, you moved to Toluca Lake. Well, what's the lake like? She's like, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. So she's in the neighborhood, but not up by the lake itself, not where all the $1 million houses are, or the multi-million-dollar houses are. Sorry, almost every house nowadays is $1 million. Where when we were kids, $1 million was a lot of money. But we then cut to the restaurant, and they're talking and sharing photos, and kind of like having a pseudo first date. And there's this scene is decent enough, but it also has a little bit of like on the nose exposition. And this is where we finally get, what is Gavin's situation? Well, his parents were living in Cambodia for a couple of years. They were fostering a young child there, and ended up adopting her. And when they came back to the United States, or just before they came back to the United States, his dad died. So they had to bring his remains back. They had to bring his new sister and his mom. And we kind of learned that there's some issues when it comes to adopting from Cambodia, because there's been a lot of illicit activity going on with immigration from Cambodia.
Right.
And this is being something that Gavin's really worried about, but he hopes that now that they're in LA and they're kind of getting settled in, they'll be able to sort this thing out. And
Right.
Gavin has this awkward way of dealing with it, because how does a guy in his early 20s explain that he has an adopted 3-year-old sister who, anytime he's going to be out in public with her, the relationship is going to be brother and sister, but people are going to assume father and daughter. And then he puts himself in positions explaining what it is that raises eyebrows to people. And it's supposed to be done comically, but I don't know if it fully nails it.
Yeah, yeah. Like each time they ask him, and he kind of has to answer, so it's a running quote unquote gag. I don't know if it's funny or not, but it's sort of a gag. But I wanted to tell you something that I didn't actually put into context what I was saying before. The
Okay.
reason I mentioned Silver Lake is that I know somebody in California that lives in that area, and I remember going and meeting up with him. And I really thought to myself, I mean, he lived in a place called Silver Lake there, but I didn't really remember seeing lakes. So that's why when this thing came up and he was saying, "Oh, is there really a lake in Toluca Lake?" I started thinking to myself, "Is there one in Silver Lake?" And that's why when you were saying it, I was just mentioning it. But I thought about it and thought, well, nobody really understands what the reference was. I was talking to myself, and then I'm like, I should probably explain it.
Okay, so that's some good context in mind, because even what you're saying here, this is what Gavin was doing with Allie. Like, he wasn't sure, and she had to affirm him. And I made a mistake here. Yes, he did leave his phone also in the apartment. So he left his keys and his phone in his mom's apartment. Because when we get to this part with the date where she's showing him pictures of Toluca Lake, because she's found it, and he's talking about his new sister. Of course, Allie's saying, "Oh, do you have a picture of you two together?" And he says, "Oh, I left my phone back in their apartment." And
Although
yeah,
Although I have to say, I mean, sure, it's fine. It's convenient that he left his phone and did all that stuff, but and it's good because then there's a lot of reasons why it's important that he doesn't have his cell phone here, and I actually agree with it from a writing perspective. But even if his mom looked sad through the window, he could have still like rang that doorbell and taken his phone. I mean, it seems like it's not the first time his mom was sad. Maybe best not to leave your phone.
Right.
Just my opinion, my 2 cents though.
Well, the other part is why would you ever take your phone out of your possession in a doesn't matter if it's your family's house, but in a house that's not yours, you know?
Well, there could be
yeah.
an exception. If he's like, let's say he's hanging out and she's doing a family dinner or whatever it is,
Mhm.
and he spent like 4 hours there and they're watching TV. It's on the couch. He's kind of relaxing. He then like, okay, I'm gonna go. He heads up. He gets up. He doesn't take it from the couch.
Right.
In that case, I could see a situation. But here, he was there like a minute. He's like,
Yeah.
hey, oh, hello. Are you going to here? What about Vietnam? What about this? What about Cambodia? Oh, I'll see you later. And that's it. It's like all like a minute. And in that minute, he somehow managed to take his phone out and leave it. You know what? I'm going to be really nitpicky here.
Go for it.
I wish there was something that would have caused him to take it out. Maybe that he wanted to show the little girl. Maybe the little girl, he's occupying her with some YouTube video of like a talking raccoon or something. You know what I mean? He gives her something
Right.
to look at his phone, and then she runs away with his phone, and he's talking to his mom, and then
Forgets.
he leaves.
Yeah, and then forgets and
Right,
leaves.
and then it's like the little girl just throws the phone somewhere, and you see her like running up or whatever it is. Then at that point, at least I can understand how he forgot it. Still, if 1 second later he remembers, the instinct is you ring the doorbell and
Say, hey,
want to do
sorry,
it.
forgot my phone.
I would have preferred, yeah, exactly. I would have
Yeah.
preferred that the little girl run off with it, toss it somewhere. It's sitting at his mom's, and you even see him on the bench, and he goes, "Oh, my phone!" And there's a quick flash, like a 2 second image in his mind, and or you just a quick cut to the phone, like laying on next to a few toys or something. You know what I mean? You
Right.
do like a little quick flashback to the thing, and he's like, "Oh, I left it. I think that I know where it is. It's not here though." So then, I think that. I don't have a million nitpicks like this, but I feel like this one could have been executed better. But go on.
No, I think you're in agreement because it's really hard for me to believe someone who is in their early 20s in current day doesn't really have their phone if not glued to their hand, but always in one of the pockets at all times. Like, the only time it's never not in their hand is if it's connected to a charger. It's like
Or like
that's
what I said,
yeah.
there's some kind of reason for it to be out. I think I actually don't think that's a bad idea. Entertaining a little girl that's 3 years old with some cartoon on your phone, because I'll tell you the truth. I once was in a situation like that where I was with sort of family friends or whatever it is, and there was like a girl sitting there, and I don't know what happened. I can't remember the circumstances, but I took out my phone and I put on like the Transformers. I don't know if this little girl likes the Transformers. That's what I like. I also don't know if she would like the Transformers from the 1980s, but in any case, I put it on, and she at least looked at it for a number of minutes. Now, I didn't forget to take the phone back, but at least I remember a situation where there was at least a little girl and a phone, and then I ended up doing something with that phone. So it is possible, but the way they did it, I just don't buy it.
Yeah, it was too lackadaisical. It just it didn't feel plausible to me. Like, yeah, I mean, there's lots of other options. You could be like, say, his mom has set up her laptop, and she's like, "Oh, I need to do stuff on the internet, but there's no internet in the building yet." And Gavin says, "Oh, I'll just turn my phone into a hotspot," and he leaves it there.
Good.
You know,
Excellent.
You know-
He's the tether. Although, to be fair, he could have tethered and still put it in the pocket, but it's fine. I could at least see a situation where he tries to put it next to it so she has a good signal.
Yeah.
So, like, she's sitting next to the laptop with a thing. Could work as well. I like the showing the little girl a cartoon or the mother with a hotspot. Both would have worked. Honestly, there's probably a few other options that you and I haven't thought of. Why? But the fact that whoever wrote it, this Fleming person, didn't think that he needed to explain that. It's kind of weak, but I don't want to dwell on it. It's fair that we pointed it out, but it doesn't destroy the movie, you know?
It doesn't destroy the movie. It doesn't also give it. I mean, what it does is it gives us a little bit of inconsistency because we don't really see any other examples of Gavin forgetting things around his house or forgetting things anywhere he goes. If this ended up establishing a pattern that he always forgets something whenever he leaves a place, then we've got a pattern, we got a character trait, we understand how he gets into these situations, we can have some fun with it. That makes sense. But this is a one-off, essentially. And it's almost to a point where it's a one-off of convenience. Which again is one of the minor flaws of the script, is that there are some aspects of it that are awfully convenient. But the way that it sets up the payoff for the result of the phone, I thought it was kind of nice, because it goes into a little bit of an old school type of part, because she asks to see pictures. He says, "Oh, I forgot my phone," and then he does this very, very clever way of saying, "I'll have to send you a pic once I have it. That is if," and then she's like, "Oh," a clever way to get her phone number, without having to have the phone with them. And so, like, they're flirting a little bit more about that. The server comes by, they leave the credit card and the pen to sign the receipt. Gavin pockets the pen and the receipt, and not forgetting his credit card, and then brings back that pen and receipt later to get Allie's phone number, to write it down physically on the receipt. And we get this interesting little scene where he's walking her to her car. He gets the receipt. She opens the driver's side door and exposes the fact that her car is like a pigsty. Like, there's a massive mess of junk and papers and auditions and stuff, because we learned that Allie is there, with dreams of becoming an actor, as 90% of most of the people that move to LA have. And and she's caught very embarrassed, but Gavin kind of thinks, hey, this is it's a charming little aspect of you. And they get the numbers, and like he gets her number, and he pockets the paper and says, "Okay, we'll have to go do something real quick." And they have this, like, kind of, they end their meet cute that way. And of course, now Gavin goes back. He gets to his mom's apartment, apologizes for leaving his phone, and then we notice that he starts grimacing and grabbing his forehead like he's got some type of headache or something, and he's popping some aspirin. And then we kind of go into like what are the new habits he's forming in this new part of the world, like in LA. Like, so he's wakes up, he goes to visit his mom and sister. He brings lunch. He's taking Ruby around the street to get to know things. He's finding some parts where he has to kind of explain that this isn't his daughter, it's his sister, which people raise an eyebrow because, again, provides suspicion. But he then starts to take photos of himself and Ruby, having some, fun at like an ice cream store or a toy store or something, and he tries to send it to Allie, but he gets a service error, and it's unknown, and this happens a couple of times until all of a sudden his phone rings, and it's Allie, and they start having a conversation, and it picks up into a date, and this is where we start getting some interesting hints that Allie might not exist, that she might be a hallucination. So the first part of it is Gavin takes Ruby to the farmer's market where they're going to meet Allie, and Gavin is telling Ruby, "Hey, this is Allie, say hi to her," and Ruby doesn't quite understand it, but eventually says, "Hi, Allie." And you think, it's framed in a very clever way as like maybe Ruby is shy. After all, she's 3. She's just started to learn how to speak, and comprehend and articulate words, and she's in a new place that she's never been before, so she could be shy. But so it plays off believably. So you have a nice little distraction where, oh, okay, maybe he's just a shy kid. Maybe there's nothing really wrong here. But we get a couple of these instances throughout the first 25 pages, and they're really quick, and they go by very quick, very effectively and fast, because we get to see this growing chemistry between Gavin and Allie. And we also, and then, they end up, getting intimate together, and we see that Allie has this hourglass tattoo on her shoulder, on the back of her shoulder, and it's the edges of the hourglass are the double helix, and I thought, oh, that's kind of a clever little thing there. And we start getting the sense that, like, as Gavin starts to talk with her, he'll maybe turn his back, and then when he turns back to see her, she's not there anymore, but she's at another part of the room, and she got there like instantly, and he doesn't quite understand how that happened. And when they're out to lunch at the restaurant, the server comes up to take the order, and he asks Allie what she wants, and she says it, and the server's like waiting for the order, and everybody's starting to look at Gavin weird, and then the server thinks that Gavin's like a kook, goes to get the manager, who then tells him that Gavin has to leave, and when Gavin gets upset, he blacks out, and he wakes up in the hospital, and he's been there for a couple of days, and the doctor comes in and says, "So, Gavin, you passed out at a hospital. People said that you were talking to yourself, and we got permission from your mother to perform an MRI on you, and it turns out that you've got a benign tumor, in your brain, close to the brain stem, and it's not deadly yet, but we have to keep an eye on it because eventually if it grows, we'll have to perform surgery and have it removed. Otherwise, it could cause some damage and it can become malignant and, a whole slew of things." And this really freaks out Gavin because, number one, he's thinking the medical bills are going to eat up everything that his father left him and his mother to live off while he restarts his life. And two, he starts to piece together that Allie is a hallucination as a result of this tumor kind of pressing against his brainstem. And even the doctor who identified this tumor finds this to be rather fascinating and brings in kind of our first real supporting character that's outside of Gavin's intimate circle. And this character I thought was pretty interesting. His name is Dr. Fisher. And Dr. Fisher is working. He's a neuropsychologist and he's a neurosurgeon and doctor, and he is working with a startup group that is trying to create sort of AI simulations based off of human memories of people that we knew that maybe we have lost. And there's this really compelling story with Dr. Fisher that his young son tragically died in a hit-and-run accident. And so he's working with this team in the hopes that if they can break through this technology, he can retain the memories of his son vividly, almost lucidly, and not necessarily replace him, but feel his presence more prominently to kind of cover up the absence that he feels deep down. What was your take on this type of motivation from Dr. Fisher and why he was so interested in Gavin and this Allie hallucination that he was dealing with?
I on one hand I kind of liked it, but on the other hand, this feels a bit spooky to me, and I feel like the spookiness and weirdness of it was just kind of glossed over here. They're like, "Oh yeah, maybe his son will be there. Oh great!" Like like nobody. They kind of just they just glossed over this as though it's like not really strange at all that he's like, "I'm gonna pretend to have my son in my brain" or whatever. I'm like, this usually ends up being like the villain in a big story, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if this was a comic book movie, he would end up being like Mr. Freeze or something, you know what I mean, with his wife. Like it sounds like something a bit creepy if you get one. Or I'm trying to think who else it would be. I don't know why I thought of Mr. Freeze. Didn't Mr. Freeze have a wife that died?
He had a wife that was dying of an illness, and he cryogenically froze her. And this is a revamped origin. The original one is that Batman accidentally made him because he was a criminal working with chemicals, and they got doused and turned him into a Sub-Zero guy named Mr. Zero, later named Mrs. Freeze.
You get what I'm trying to say, though.
Yeah.
That usually this is more of a creepy type of situation, yet here they're just like, great, like he misses his son, and his son is going to be in his brain. I'm like, okay.
Well, I don't know if they're doing it with that type of energy, though. It's more like here's the other part, too. So Dr. Fisher, what makes him distinct from a villain is that he is not even pressuring Gavin at all. He's just saying, this is the deal. Like, I work for this company. They want to run some brain scans on you because they might be able to do something with that to create some simulations. They're willing to pay you about 6 figures to do it. it's your choice. And if you do it, great. And if you don't, no problem. We'll still try to work with how this interaction is occurring with you, so that we can monitor you and make sure that that this tumor, doesn't cause any permanent damage. Like that. The other part too is like he's never positioned put in a position where you think he's an antagonist. And that's one of the things that's kind of interesting about this script, is that the antagonist is a tumor and time, but it has a byproduct of something that is not antagonistic at all, something that is kind of nurturing and kind of helping Gavin while he is dealing with these new responsibilities, essentially as like the man of the family. Like, his mother is not taking charge of anything. She's hiding from the world because her husband is gone. And Gavin has to step up and take care of her and take care of his new sister, while at the same time, very concerned, especially when the lawyers are reviewing all the adoption paperwork, that something horrible might happen where Ruby might be deported and sent back to the orphanage that she was found in initially back in Cambodia. And then on top of that, even his mother is thinking like, maybe I'll go back to Vietnam because that's where she met her father.
This is the one thing, again, not to be nitpicky.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I thought that this was a bit all over the place. The mother wants to be in this. She wants to be here. The girl is here. It's like, lady, you're the one that brought this kid here. What do you mean you want to go to Vietnam? Like, something about this whole thing, it's like she wanted to adopt it with the father. The father passed away. Now she has to go to Vietnam now that the child lives here. I think that if she was serious and for a few years she spent trying to get this kid, I think that just being like, nah, okay, I'll just go to Vietnam. I'll leave now. Like, I something about this didn't work for me. It's okay. I mean, I kind of let it slide, much like with the phone earlier, but I didn't feel like this part of it was the strongest part of the screenplay for me.
No, because this is kind of a staple of a Hallmark type of movie, or like, a made-for-TV family film, is you throw in some higher stakes conflict that runs parallel to the central conflict that we're focused on. So in this case, in Gavin here, we have a soft conflict, essentially. The soft conflict is that he's got a brain tumor. It's benign, so it's not going to kill him. Doctors are aware of it. He's being monitored. If it gets serious, he's going to be okay. We know that. They haven't done anything yet to imply that this will kill him and they have to operate right now. And doing so will have a ripple effect that will disrupt his family for months, if not years afterwards. They don't set up that parameter. They set up this higher stakes parameter, which is we have this innocent little kid who the screenwriter does a pretty good job of making us like, because she's not obnoxious. She's curious. She's got all the elements that any person with a heart would look at her and be like, oh, I wish you were my kid. That type of thing. That's how they're framing her. And the writer is trying to establish empathy that, oh, Gavin needs to protect this kid, but because that has the higher stakes plot, it should technically be the A plot, but it's not. It's a B plot. And I think that is why it feels like it's an add-on or a red herring of sorts, because the focus is not really on, the status, who this kid is, her experiences in America and with this new family and acclimating to that. The story is about Gavin and his hallucination girlfriend that isn't killing him now, but might in the future. But the interactions that he's having with her are unique, that it has attracted a doctor who is fascinated with neuroscience and is fascinated by Gavin's experience and thinks that there could be something of value to learn from him, and is doing so not at the exploitation of Gavin, but doing so for the benefit of Gavin, which is hooking him up with a company that will give him money to help save his new sister from deportation. And it's when you explain it out like this, it's like, oh, that's kind of convoluted, which again, made for TV type of Hallmark films tend to lean that way. But yeah, it is kind of convoluted. And then on top of that, there are certain conveniences that pop up to de-escalate the stakes of the convoluted subplot for this. So yeah, that's one of the weird aspects of this type of script.
I understand that if they're going for the Hallmark situation, I understand why they've introduced this idea and how it all ends. It's just like, I wish that there was, like with the phone, I feel like maybe somebody could have put a little extra effort into explaining this whole situation. Maybe create a situation where there is currently a relative or something that she needs to visit in Vietnam, that there's some other there's some reason why she has to go aside from, I'm old lady and sad, yo.
Well, the reason we do find out the reason why she wants to go back in Vietnam. Now, she wants to go back in Vietnam because she felt more like she belonged. She feels like without her husband, she isn't. Without her husband to love her, she doesn't feel like she's got a presence in the world. And this makes her kind of a complicated and a conflicting character, because she has this little girl that's supposed to be her daughter now, and she's not showing any love to the kid. Like, she's not showing any hate to the kid either. Just kind of apathy. Like, she has this child here. And
she's the one that wanted her.
Yeah, she's the one who wanted her. Yeah, exactly.
Annoys me. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
This lady kind of annoys me.
Well, we find out that she's got a little bit of a selfish attitude to her, because she gives this speech to Gavin saying, when your father was alive, I felt young and seen and special. And now that he's dead and I look in the mirror, I see this old lady and I don't belong here anymore. And it's very shallow. Like, it is objectively very shallow. And it doesn't make her a good character, but it does make Gavin a better character, because he's still doing what should be done for a person in his situation. He's not trying to run away like his mother is. And he is rather surprised by this. And on top of that, he makes a great point. Like, you go back to Vietnam and you take Ruby with you, she's not going to have that great of a life there in comparison to what the opportunities that she could have here with stateside. And this is kind of a trope with certain Hallmark films, where you have that one parent that, is making the wrong decision. And, the child has to make the right one for themselves to prove that, it's the right thing to do. But the parent still goes and makes their decision to live their life because it's their responsibility. And you have the passing of the torch of responsibilities and control over a person's life when the parent leaves and the child becomes the adult. This one here fits that trope pretty solid. And it kind of, the dichotomy does make Gavin a better person as a result of it, because we have a woman that's in grieving, and her grieving is a relatively rare type of grieving, one that I don't think really happens all too much, where the grieving is very self-centered to the person, as opposed to feeling the absence and then wanting to do something to sort of hide the feeling of the absence, but also add in additional meaning now. Because when you've been with someone for like a long time, and then they suddenly leave your world, a part of you leaves with them, and you have to figure out, my meaning for so many years was in relationship to this person. Now that they're gone, I've got a gap in that meaning. Like, I'm incomplete. So how do you fill that void, and how do you fill it with something that is maybe not equal to what you've lost, but still has its own impact on your life and the people connected to you? And I think that's an interesting story to share. And I like the fact, and I found it fascinating. And I like the fact that Gavin's mother didn't have that at all, didn't have that priority. It almost felt like she was always like a passive person in the world, and it was her husband that was active, and she just deferred to him all the time. And she wasn't so much as of a participant as she was sort of along for the ride. Like, maybe she was a trophy wife, because she does talk about her looks and beauty, right? So I'm wondering if that's what the writer was going for here.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And and with that part there, I mean, it's a really all I can say is it's a really weird it's a really weird subplot to have because it doesn't really feel like it parallel or it tethers into the main story because the log line in the synopsis is about, oh, this guy's got a tumor and
Right.
it might kill him.
Right.
And what is he going to do? And the tumor is creating a hallucination of the girl of his dreams who he has fallen in love with. And what is he to do? And as he is learning more about this tumor and he's getting more attached to this hallucination of this woman that he is fabricated, he is growing a little bit more attached to her than you'd expect. And then he is essentially like contemplating like what would his life be without her, because he knows that this is going to be an inevitability. Like even the doctors are saying like the likelihood you're able to live a very long life with a benign tumor pressing against your cerebral cortex is not really in your favor there.
Right. Exactly.
And I get that the writer was trying to make this part the drama, which is, are you willing to live with this potential premature death for the sake of essentially an imaginary girlfriend that smells, feels real in every sense of the word, but is not actually there? And I think that's kind of an interesting premise. And it reminded me a little bit of the movie Phenomenon with John Travolta. It's not a fantastic movie by any means, but it's a movie where he's got a brain tumor and it gives him supernatural powers like telepathy and high intelligence and stuff like that. But, it you know that the story is going into that mid-act turning point, which is, even though the tumor's benign, it's probably going to grow, and it means that the doctor's going to have to operate if they want to save his life. And now you put him in this position, and this is what the script does, where they say, okay, we're going to take this tumor out of your head, and you're going to be recovering for a few weeks, and then you're back to your normal life. And if we don't do this, you're going to die, and if you die, well, that means your mother has lost a son and a husband within the same year, and it means that little girl, her fate is probably going to go back to Cambodia, or at the very best, go with her mother, her adoptive mother, to Vietnam. And her future, the future that she could have had if you were alive, will die with you as well. And on paper, which is ironic, getting that this is a script technically on paper. On paper, when you talk about those ideas, they seem juicy. The issue, though, is that that's a lot to navigate and convey in a story that is meant to be told in one sitting. Like novelistically, you could get away with this. I'd say a lot easier because you can isolate and focus on each aspect in each chapter at a time and have it kind of all fit and meld together once you complete the book itself, like reading it or writing it. In a screenplay, you have limited real estate.
I tend to agree with everything you're saying, and maybe that's the reason why a lot of the things that happen here or this specific situation didn't seem that logical to me. He's like, well, maybe I'll wait around because I really like this imaginary girl. I'll just like wait a bit. What are we in
Yeah.
a hurry about? I think that generally speaking, if somebody said, "Hey, this lady that you're talking to, she's just in your mind. You're going insane, and you got to remove the thing," I'd say do it. Let's do it now. Do you have time now? Let's do the operation at this moment right now. Even if she's standing there and like taking her clothes off and saying, "Oh, don't you still love me?" I'd be like, "I don't want to see this weird hallucination. Just get this away from me
Mm-hmm.
and fix this thing right now." Wouldn't care. This is all a bunch of for me. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Like I personally would. There's nothing even to discuss with me. That girl is gone. You know what I mean? Like the imaginary lady.
Yeah.
I don't need no weird imaginary lady in my brain. I don't care about any of that. There's no upside here. There's no selling point where I'm like, well, I do like that imaginary girl in my mind. Like, I don't need any of that. I think that this
Mm-hmm.
part is a bit stupid. However, I understand that we're looking, and we've talked about it before the stream, and you even mentioned it here. if you're going for a more kind of don't think about it too much Hallmark type of movie, maybe you could get away with the, random convoluted things or
Hmm.
things that aren't really dwelled upon and don't make a whole lot of sense, because in those type of movies, they know that they need to get from A to B and from B to C, and how they get there doesn't really matter to them that much. And I kind of feel
Hmm.
like that's what it's happening here in this script, if you get what I'm saying.
No, in some cases that is the case because unfortunately one of the staples of a Hallmark film, which is why it has the stigma it has, is that even the main characters, when they're trying to be a little bit altruistic, there is a self-serving nature in there that's kind of a bit more on the nose than in other types of films or in other types of productions. And in this case here, I would say one of the things that hurts the script is Allie, even as a hallucination, you have to ask yourself, what is she bringing to this world aside from beauty and good conversation to Gavin that would make him contemplate living with this tumor to have her around? Like, what can she contribute, right? Only thing that we get from this part is that she's got a pleasant personality, good chemistry with him, and when he's around her, he's happy. But it's a fake happiness, and no one outside of really the two doctors, and Ruby kind of gets it but doesn't really know about Allie or what she is. So she's not creating a conflict in any part of Gavin's life aside from the internal conflict that she's a result of a brain tumor pushing against his brainstem. So that is what is missing here, because you can take it to other movies that use like imaginary friends or some sort of supernatural element where a person kind of enters the world but is only seen by them. So you got, like, for instance, Drop Dead Fred, and you've got Mannequin. So those are two examples where you have an imaginary friend, but then you have like an artificial person that comes to life and then kind of does some things and whatnot. But in both of those instances, their existence, while it can provide comfort and friendship and a relationship for the main character, there is a byproduct that it has external conflicts as well with the other people that this character is interacting with. And that is what's missing from this script here. Gavin with Allie, when he's going out on dates with her, yeah, once he realizes that she's a hallucination, he's like, oh, we can have some fun here. If we want to go on a trip, I only have to pay for one plane ticket. If we want to go to the movies, I only have to pay for one movie ticket. Like, he's thinking of a financial thing here, and he's using it as a little bit of a joke because Allie is also aware that she is now a hallucination for Gavin. Like, she knows that she is a byproduct of a tumor, and they do add some element to it, which I did think was clever for the script, which is that Allie doesn't want to be the reason that Gavin dies prematurely. She is willing to, and in some cases, often orders Gavin to get the surgery to remove the tumor because she doesn't want him to die. And that's unique for these types of situations, because usually the imaginary character, whether it's a friend or a foe, will do anything they can to maintain their existence because to heck with the reason for why they exist. All that's important to them is that they exist. And we have the opposite of that here with Allie. And I thought that was an interesting element to bring into this story here.
I guess it was fine. Again, like I said, maybe I'm just being harsh, because the thing is that whatever this movie is going for, it's not necessarily the kind of style of movie that like really tickles my fancy personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose that if I disconnect from my personal sentiments here, you are making some good points, and at the end of the day, sometimes movies are not the most sophisticated in the world. They're not like, very elaborate. Sometimes they're just very simple and straightforward. And yes, sometimes you have to suspend disbelief, or there's just some cutting of corners to get things moving. And I feel like this script certainly does that in a few instances.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay what you're saying. I understand.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, here's a great example of one of the cutting corners parts and the convolutions of the script that it comes in, it's awfully inconvenient, and it's nice, but it's almost to the point where the main character hasn't earned anything. And I think that's what boils down to another flaw with this, because Gavin decides, hey, I'm going to go see what Toluca Lake is like, and I'm going to drive out there. And he drives out there, he finds the lake, and he ends up wandering onto a person's property to get a closer view of it. And this person happens to be an old lady named Elaine, and she's recently retired. And what was her job? Well, she actually worked with immigration for refugees and migrants. So she is the perfect person to help Gavin with his sister. How convenient. Like, this is, again, another staple for the Hallmark. Like, what are the odds that, you're going to find the exact person you need at the exact time you need to solve this sub-problem that's, not really on the forefront of your mind, but it's lingering in everything that you do. And yeah, that's what we have here. Now, Elaine, an interesting character. She comes across as if she hates life, but what she hates is the tragedy that she's had to witness whenever she fails at her job. But what's interesting about her character is that the failures don't hurt as much when you get a win, when you do it right. And what I especially like about this one here is that it does have an opportunity to be very, very, very partisan, and the writer doesn't go that way. They explore everything as if it's a very authentic thing. They keep party politics out of this subject matter, which I give it as a plus to do, because it's, in some circles in Hollywood, there's a lot of pressure to make political points in work, and I give props to the writer here for just making a problem and pairing it in a very neutral sense, and then coming up with a very proper and very satisfying resolution for it that I think people who tend to like Hallmark movies would enjoy, and people who maybe just like sentimental films that this script is fitting into the genre for would also enjoy in that resolution there. I'm assuming you're probably in the same boat as me with the convolution of Elaine, but how did you like her character, and how did you like the type of advice that she would give Gavin?
Like is a very strong word here, Script. I really don't feel like I like any of these characters, to be honest. But like I said, the one thing I'll give you is, and I'm trying to think now. One time, I don't know why, maybe I was with family, somebody put this thing on, and there was a movie on Hallmark, which I didn't put on and never would have. I don't know how it landed on it, why it was still kept on and nobody changed the channel, why anybody was watching it, but I was not in control of the programming at that moment. And it was a movie with the girl from Wonder Years. Danica McKellar, is that her name?
Yeah, Danica McKellar, yeah. Or Danica McKenna, one of the two.
Well, something like that. Close enough. In any case, she was in it, and it was something about her, like she's now a businesswoman, but she's dancing with a guy, and they fall in love or something. And it had all the nonsense that, like, a script like this that we just read, it had it. And I didn't think the movie was good, but I have a feeling that it did well on the Hallmark Channel for the type of viewers that want to see that kind of thing. And that movie really reminded me, like, the same pitfalls that this one has, that one had, but it didn't seem to care about it. It very much was kind of self-aware of how much nonsense there was in that movie, or how they were just glossing over things, or how the characters were one-dimensional. Even there, they had a few older people in a shop. They want to keep the shop. They don't want to keep just convoluted nonsense. And of course, at the end, there's a big feel-good moment where, like, something good happens with the shop, something good happens to the lady, she falls in love, and all this other stuff. And again, I watched it thinking, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But I can't say that it doesn't work for the nonsense that it's trying to do. And I feel kind of the same way about what we're reading here. It annoys me. These characters annoy me, and a lot of this doesn't make sense. But within the vibe and atmosphere that it's trying to go for, I can see why you could claim that it somewhat works.
Well, I'll say this: it character motivation wise, it's a little weak. Plot wise, it's a little convoluted. But these movies, these types of scripts, are really about the emotion. Is it connecting with the audience? Is it playing on to their empathy? And does it play it respectfully enough so that the conclusion is satisfying? And yeah, that this script kind of fits a lot of those points to it, because again, that's what the Hallmark movie is. Like, even if you get like the oh gosh, the say like the Thanksgiving or the Christmas movie in Hallmark, right, where you have the Scrooge type character. The person's like, oh, I don't like Christmas, I don't believe it, and then all of a sudden they some sort of tragedy happens and people rally together to help them, and in doing so, they learn the real value of Christmas, and they then accept it and they feel better about themselves. But again, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, these type of scripts always have characters that have more of a internal self motivation for their own immediate gratification, as opposed to, say, a traditional type of family film. Speaking of which, one would be a Home Alone, right? Because, sadly, Catherine O'Hara had recently passed away, a amazing comedian and comedic actress. And that movie was about family. And it was also about responsibility and growing up. And for that movie, while Kevin is, living in the house alone, and he's learning how to, get groceries, brush his teeth, and he's doing the things that he realizes he has to do in order to make it, from one day to the next. Catherine O'Hara is on this journey where she's going across the country by any means possible to find her son and make sure she's okay, knowing full well that even with her efforts in contacting the police and other people in the neighborhood who, many of which aren't there because they all left for vacation, she is really like doing everything she can to hold it together just so she can get home and make sure that her kid is okay. And it's not about her, it's about him. And for Kevin, it's not about him, it's solely about him. It's about the fact that now he's missing his family, and there's value there. So it's not about like, this makes me feel better because I want it to make me feel better. It's like, oh, this absence shows that the people around me are really important, and maybe I should appreciate them when they're here, because what their meaning is to me helps me become, the person I want to be. Even though I like, you exercise out the world of no rules, right? You're finally alone. There's no one to tell you anything to do. You kind of go nuts with what you with everything that you ever wanted to do, and then once you kind of purge that fixation, you have to look around and realize, like, oh, now I understand why things are the way they are. And maybe I should probably get back onto that track. Otherwise, this new lifestyle could be very, very damaging to myself and the people around me. And you get with these types of stories. I mean, I'm sorry about we're constantly kind of trashing on the Hallmark Channel, but again, they did this to themselves. they take a look at those.
They make money. They
They do.
I can't just dismiss it and say, well, there's no target audience for it. You have to also acknowledge sometimes there could be certain movies that maybe don't appeal to you personally or me personally, but it doesn't mean if somebody could make something and get people to watch it and make it a sustainable business, I can't completely knock it, even though personally I don't connect with it that much.
Oh, absolutely. Like, again, there is an audience for it. But one of the staples of the Hallmark, which is why you have like a split audience, like you have the people that like it because it gives them the feelings to make them feel good. Sometimes they'll watch the movies again. Most cases they usually don't. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. But overall, like, the stigma is the fact that, oh, it takes the depth of the movies that they want to make and it completely misses them. It takes a superficial approach over the depth of what the actual family, the heartfelt movies, the movies that last for generations have. Like, It's a Wonderful Life. That's a brilliant movie about absence and how one person can make a difference and what they can do and why they're important. And Hallmark doesn't always kind of pick up on that, or at least the model that they use, which does help them make the money, is so fast-paced from concept development to execution and release that the entire creative team behind it doesn't really have the time to add that extra layer of depth that could elevate the movie from what it ended up being as a final run to something that people would be like, you know what, every year we got to watch this movie, like because that's what you really want when you're a storyteller, when you're a filmmaker, is you'd love it if you made something so good that your general audience would say, like, it's a tradition to sit down with the family and watch this movie because of the story, because of the characters, because of their obstacles, and because of their victories. Like, that's what you really, really want to try and do. And for the people that kind of rush it out to make it more like product instead of art, you kind of only get that from, you kind of only achieve that feeling in the short term, kind of like a drug. And if you were to watch it over and over again, it's never going to repeat that same feeling again, because what you saw initially was nothing more than what you saw on the surface. And a script like this is teetering right on that, because its A plot should really be its B plot, and its B plot should really be its A plot.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
I don't disagree with what you're saying. You're saying some good things here, yeah.
well, I mean, the thing is, I'm looking at this script as, okay, just like with every other Hollywood producer, and you look at the script and you think, okay, well, where would this go? Where would the market be for this? And then the other part is, well, does it live up to what that market and that target requires of it? And for myself, I'm like, Hallmark, yes, barely. And the reason being is that we're missing that element that I said earlier, which is, oh, you have this hallucination girlfriend. Well, what does she bring, positively and negatively? And is it just internal, or is there an external aspect to it? And unfortunately for this script, it's all internal. Like, there's no external aspect to Allie that requires Gavin to have a conflict. And as a result, this puts Gavin into far more of a passive position as a protagonist than an active one, because things are happening to him and he is reacting to them. And the script has laid out, he has a choice to make, and it's a very simple choice. Live with the tumor and possibly die young, get the tumor removed, not have to worry about it, but you lose this imaginary girlfriend. And for people like you and me, Price, it's kind of easy, get rid of the tumor. I don't want to have her doubt reality. I don't want, like, reality is so important, perception is so important, that the last thing you want is to have something in there that makes you think the world isn't real. And if you start to think that the world isn't real, then you stop treating it as if it's real, in which case you start doing damage to yourself and others. Like, that's the danger of it. And that's why it's really important to have a good sense of reality, and have people in your friends and family that can help make sure you're able to see that reality. Not their specific reality, of course, but like being able to think critically about, oh, this is happening, I can interact with this, there's actual results to it, there's consequences, there's benefits, there's expectations. That's really important to grasp on here. But with a character like Gavin, again, he has no want. Like, what is his goal? Oh, I've moved my family to LA. Great. What is your goal? Maybe get a job. Okay. What job do you want to get? Well, we don't know. We don't ever find out. Right? Like, what is his passion? We don't know. We don't ever find out. With Allie, we know her passion. She wants to be an actress. Sure. It's very stereotypical, but it's something. Does Gavin want to be an actor? No. Does he want to do anything in film? No. So why is he in LA? Oh, he likes the weather. Great. But why is he in LA? Those are the questions that are sadly not answered with the Gavin character in this script. Regardless of how quick of a read it is, regardless of how simple some of the conflicts are and the dynamics of the choice are, we're still missing that substance that really gives us something to root for with Gavin. And him just having a girlfriend is not enough. So...
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's a very kind of on the surface type of movie.
Mhm.
I still, I had mixed feelings while I was reading it, because it went by quickly. I can see somebody enjoying it, even if I didn't really enjoy it. If you told me about this movie, I wouldn't want to see it. I don't care about it. It's not for me. But again, we're not sitting here just thinking, oh, what's good for you? We're thinking, is this worthy of being made for somebody? And I guess, that's where I struggle a bit because I could see somebody enjoying a movie like this, however silly it seems to me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's got that sort of. Okay, so this is another part that kind of bothers me with some entertainment when the entertainment, like the concept of entertainment, is usually an artistic way to express a valuable lesson about life. Generally speaking, that's kind of what it is. You watch a story, you're like, oh, I can see that as an allegory for a life lesson that I think would be valuable for me to learn in my future. Like an easy one is like, don't play with fire, right? So you have this wonderful story, whether it's a half hour short book or a feature film, where, a horrible fire spreads and takes out, a town or a city or something. And really the moral message at the end of the day is like, you shouldn't be playing with fire. This script doesn't seem to have that, and the genre with which it fits into also doesn't technically have that. It's more like a wish fulfillment for a fairy tale with a happy ending. It's like we want a story that has a non-threatening conflict so that we can have a very joyous happy ending. And it feels more like content to placate, where movies and stories are designed primarily to stimulate. There's challenging stories that get you involved, and then there's stories that are passive and full of affirmation that make you feel good for the brief moment in time. But like delicious Chinese food, yeah, it's great going in, but after about 20 minutes, you're hungry again. So and I get the sense that for this script, it kind of falls into that parameter, right? Because the conflicts that Gavin faces, he doesn't solve. And that's a problem, because we watch stories for the main characters to solve their own problems. They can have help, outside help, absolutely. But we're watching it for them to be the people that solve the problem.
The only thing that could have saved it, maybe for me, and I don't see them doing it, is if, let's say, the actors chosen to play Gavin and Allie are so great together, and they also beef up their banter to really be funny and have something where you're just enjoying seeing these two together, then maybe at the end, even if it doesn't make sense on a logical level, when he doesn't want to abandon her, you're like, okay, well, we as an audience have been having so much fun watching it, so at least we can be a little greedy and understand where Gavin is coming from this. But the way the screenplay is written, there's nothing all that witty about their banter, and nothing really happens that makes me think, man, how are they going to live without each other, or whatever it is. So, yeah, I maybe there's ways of making this movie and script better, but yeah, as it is, it's just it's not my cup of tea, but I guess not the worst that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I would say it's not off-putting in the least. That's for sure. But the other part is, it's not enough to be a really satisfying story in and of itself, because really we have a little bit of a delaying the inevitable, which is when his main doctor says, "Yep, your tumor is starting to grow. We want to get into operating it within the next couple of days." Gavin's like, "Oh, I don't want to lose this person," and the hallucination himself, Allie, is saying, "I'm not a person. I have to go. You need to get rid of me." And Gavin doesn't want to, and I think because he has this decision to, or this desire not to lose her, it doesn't hold much weight, because we're not seeing, as I repeated earlier, we're not seeing the value that she brings. It's not there. So that leads us up to the point where he comes to terms with that, decides go ahead.
There's one other thing.
Sure.
If they bring the hottest woman on the face of the earth to play that Allie, if she's fun and there's like quirky banter, and there's a guy that really is so charismatic on screen, and you bring like the most appealing woman on the face of the earth to be this hologram, at least you can be like, okay, well, it seems so real to him, and she looks so nice. But again, even with all those things, it would be a difficult sell. But something has to happen between the screenplay and the casting to really sell people on this idea. And I don't necessarily see this really coming to fruition in a way that I would find enjoyable still.
Yeah, I think for this case here, the cast would have to do a lot of heavy lifting. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't really help with you trying to convince producers to invest in your script. You kind of want them to look at this and be like, oh man, there's a lot of great actors I could see playing these roles because they're juicy, they have fun, there's conflict, there's drama. And this one here, it's like, well, you have to look at this and think, okay, well, we'll have to rework the characters. So who could we get that could help us make these characters stand out so it'd be easier, so we don't have to do as much to rework them. Like that's kind of backwards thinking when it comes to further development of a script here. But yeah, after a little bit of frank, and thankfully again, because this is a fast read, the scenes in question of him contemplating what he's going to do are very short, and he eventually gets to this decision where, yep, he's going to take the operation, and he's going to, and he says goodbye to Allie, and they try to lay on the cheese with like all the memories and stuff. And the other part is like there's also a little bit of a risk that, well, what if he doesn't make it out of the surgery alive anyways? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going to cut off for spoilers here. But with that being said, any final thoughts, Price, before we go to the decision making of Toluca Lake?
No, it's fine. I don't think I have any additional. It's fine. I guess, like I said, I don't know if there's more for me to say. It's barely serviceable enough doing whatever it's supposed to do. I would have liked to have seen a better story, more elaborate, more interesting with the characters, more real character development. And I think Michelle said something in the comments here that Gavin seems to just be reacting. He's not really proactive.
Right.
There's a lack of like charisma. There's a lack of somebody that you want to connect with, that you want to follow this journey with. And still, like I said, maybe this movie has an audience, even if I'm not the audience.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt about that. But I will say the concept is interesting. It's easy. It's an easy read, but those are two good points in his favor. But the other part is like, again, your protagonist, it should be active. Like, we want to see our main characters actually do stuff, and nothing says boring in a story when you're just kind of watching, kind of like maybe a very tame wish fulfillment of a simple, peaceful life versus like the wish fulfillment of being like a secret agent, where you're going on adventures and you're fighting bad guys and rescuing, damsels in distress or what have you. Like, that's a different type of fantasy wish fulfillment. This script felt more like a fantasy wish fulfillment of, I just want to relax, be in love, and not worry about anything and not have a job. So I think that's what's going against it. Now we're gonna check in with the Patreons right now, because we do have a comment on the posting for this by RS, and they say, great concept, easy to read, clever dialogue. Yep, I agree with that. I struggled to know where this was going in the second act. Very much understand that. I felt the scenes weren't always building, or the situation was getting more complicated, such as the one with the elderly woman at Toluca Lake. Yes, P.S. I'm not sure it helped that I watched Mulholland Drive just before reading the script. That's pretty funny. I think having watched Mulholland Drive doesn't really change your astute points on the script there, RS. But thank you so much for the comment on that. Going over to the live show, we have a super chat of 20 from Mur Rockstraw. So thank you so much for Mur Rockstraw. It says, script. Thank you for all the stuff you do on this channel and Price's channel. Really enjoy your input on things you're involved in. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's greatly appreciated. Yeah, so with that being said, guys, we're going to throw in the poll here. But sometimes it doesn't let me always do that because YouTube. So bear with me for a second while I get that sorted up, because you got to do a little refresh over here. But yeah, I would say this script was I think it has its heart in the right place overall, but it is lacking in some of the execution and some of the things that are needed in order to make this a really, really great story. Because I do like the concept. I like the idea of like, oh, an imaginary girlfriend that is a result of a tumor that is slowly killing you. How do you respond to that? Well, in order for you to make that easy decision a hard decision, you got to do something with that imaginary friend that is so powerful that you feel like you have to rely on it. Like, for instance, they did this one part in the script where Allie can do complicated math formulas much quicker than Gavin can. And I thought that was interesting, and I was hoping that it would pursue somewhere, like he'd be getting a job opportunity or something, that he'd have to do complex equations, and Allie would be able to help him with that, because that would then help him financially, and then he'd have some stakes, because he's like, oh, I can't do this job without my imaginary friend who can process these calculations, even though it's still a part of me doing it. For whatever reason, there's a block, and Allie's, as this imaginary person, this hallucination I'm having, overcomes that block. So now I'm dependent on this because it also facilitates my ability to take care of my family. There is some interesting drama that we have.
That's a much more elaborate type of movie. That's more like, it's a different movie than what they were going for. I like whatever you're saying much better, because then then I like it. It's also, you brought up the one with John Travolta.
Yeah.
Once there's a situation where somebody has that condition, but it gives them something that's now an important part of their life beyond just like, oh, I really like that lady or whatever it is. Something that makes it a more urgent and more pressing matter. I think that then you really feel like the person doesn't want to lose her.
Mm-hmm.
Even Mannequin that you mentioned.
Yeah.
At least there's something there. She comes to life. Now she's with him. I don't know what. Like, I feel like the imaginary lady in his mind is just a bit nonsense,
Well, I mean, the fun part of it is that, yeah, it is nonsense. The question is, well, how do you make that work? How do you sell that to your audience so that the suspension of disbelief, excuse me, goes?
It's not a good sale, it's okay. It's a barely serviceable enough sale. That's what this whole screenplay just sort of skates by on, barely doing the things at the bare minimum that makes it like almost serviceable enough. But like you said, there are certain. I've known people. I've known, let's say, sorry, and not trying to say anything good or bad. I know more women that like to watch the Hallmark Channel, and I think that if a movie like this came on, they'd probably watch it and think that that's exactly what they expected to watch on the Hallmark Channel. So it's not that I can't see a movie like this being made, and it's like I keep saying, I just don't really like it.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. The question isn't always just like, are you or am I specifically the target audience for this? The question is, okay, based on the merits of this script, does it do enough right to make it worthy of a green light, or is there too many things wrong about it that would say, yeah, maybe he's got to go back to the drawing board or do a rewrite or tweak it up or change some things here? Yeah.
Well, personally, what I would say is this: is that if I'm the studio executive and it's a situation, then especially if I'm working at like one of those Hallmark or even like a Lifetime movie, although Lifetime movie is more usually my neighbor is a stalker or whatever it is. I think I haven't watched that one in a while, but you know what I'm trying to say. So we'll go with like, let's say like a Hallmark situation. If I'm like sitting as the president of Hallmark, and I know what kind of movies we're making. I know the target audience. I know what we're doing. I'd be like, okay, can we get it done for $2 million? Like, if I give you $2 million, can you do a quick shoot? Just use almost like episodes of television, you know what I mean? Or if you really can land even a few halfway decent actors, nostalgia, maybe something that, there's certain people, like you said, Candace Cameron or whatever, those
Yeah.
kind of people. Can you throw in a few people that people like into this that are known for these type of productions? Get a few of those, like the Candace Bure and Danica McKellar or whatever her name is. Get us those kind of people that are popular in this niche. If you can bring that and you can make it for a few $1 million, I would greenlight it, knowing exactly what it is and what I'm sending it to. However, if you tell me, like, would you greenlight this with like a $50 million budget and, like, then do like a worldwide theatrical release? My answer to that would be no. Like, I would
Well,
not do
yeah.
that, not in a million years. This is a low budget, direct to Hallmark, or maybe in some cases, direct to streaming. Really a stretch there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Maybe you could get away with like direct to streaming if you spend very little on it.
Well, yes, I don't think anything of the script is ever implying that, yeah, this needs to be a $20 to $50 million movie. I don't see that at all. Like, this script is very much saying, "Hi, I'm a very low budget, quick read script. Please finance me." And so, yeah, like I think that's the case here. So, like, just the merits on the script price. Would you give this a green light or a pass? Just in general. No context of like budget or anything like that. Just in general, green light or pass.
I'm struggling here because it's it's a borderline case for me, and I think that how much money and where it's going to be or what it's for would really make a difference here. But if you just asked me now, like, I don't have the Hallmark option, I can't think of too much, and I'm looking at it just somebody
Yeah.
wants to put this in a movie theater.
Yeah.
Especially if we're looking at, like, can you greenlight this and we'll put it in a movie theater? My answer to that is no.
Okay.
Then in that case, I haven't greenlit it.
Right.
If only if it has the specific parameters of, like, listen, we all know this is stupid. This is not going to hold water in any place that movies are taken seriously. This is a direct to Hallmark, close to the holidays where people have like warm and fuzzy feelings.
Yeah.
I even throw in that this is happening around the time of the holidays or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, by the end of it, they're already like, there's Santa Clauses like walking around or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
you
Christmas,
do
New
something
Year's,
like-
4th of July, something like, Valentine's Day, some sort of, some sort of like anchor event going on. Yeah.
Right, or they met on Valentine's Day. There has to be something to tie this to some kind of special day that warms like the heart or whatever it is, and maybe you could get away with it. So that's my complicated answer. I know it may not be what you're looking for.
No, that's
I guess
great.
like overall, I'm not greenlighting it, but if it's like the specific situation that we know that very little money is going to be spent and it's tied to something with a certain built-in audience that we know of, I think that there's something that this screenplay can do.
All right.
But
Awesome.
knowing Hollywood, they would probably take this and do it like as if it's like an artsy indie movie, and that would be really stupid of them because I think that it would fall flat if they tried to go for quirky indie.
Oh, if they tried to make it more quirky than what's actually on the page?
In indies sometimes they're like
Yeah.
they have funny music, like titles and like little things that
Oh,
they try to
like
make it like.
like the Sony, like the old Sony classics of the early 2000s, right? Like they're indie movies, but Sony kind of like did the distribution deal. So you have like the movie with Keanu Reeves called Thumbsucker, like that's quirky indie film.
Something like that.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, this kind of would fit into something like, I mean, I don't think it would be good to apply those types of aspects to a script like this because it kind of deflates the emotion that the writer's intending to convey with this type of script. But no, I completely get I completely get your perspective because I'm in relatively the same boat. I would say on the merits of the script, given the fact that the main character is not active in their own story, which is a huge deal, I would give it a pass. But The writer knows how to write a story that's really quick to read. Pacing feels strong, but it has the hiccups, some pretty serious ones, which is your main character is not active, and there's a bit too many contrivances and conveniences to solve the problem for the main character. And when I see that in a script, it's essentially me seeing the writer's hand physically on the page as I'm reading it. So I'm not being pulled into the world. I'm constantly looking at a page that has clearly been written by a person as opposed to anything else. So yeah, that's my stipulations here. Checking in on the Patreon side of things, the audience over there who voted is something of a near split. 33% voted to greenlight, 67% voted to pass. And then on the live side of things with our live chat, 50% of the live audience voted to greenlight and 50% voted to pass. So I will say this, there's clearly something in the concept and the pros that it has definitely are appealing to people. And I think that gives a lot of credence to what you were saying earlier, Price, that, yeah, there is an audience that like these types of movies, and there is something of validity to that when it comes to pursuing whether or not this goes into production. And for those types of movies, for the Hallmark type of movies, for the Lifetime movies, even though to your point, some of the Lifetime movies are a bit more serious crime thrillers of sorts on the low budget end, this is definitely that. And I think because the script does not try to make any type of efforts to feel like it's a multi-million dollar, tens of $1 million budgeted script, it's definitely more like one of those safe bet type of things where you could throw a couple million at it, get it on a Hallmark channel. The licensing rights alone for that will pay 10, 15 times what you spent on it. And yeah, it's not going to make waves with the world, but it's a great way to get some capital that you could probably invest into a movie of a slightly better quality script. So yeah, I would say that's that's a pretty fair assessment there. And the other part too is, like, this is one of the few instances where we've had an audience really close overall on this for a script, and I love that. I love seeing that because that shows that there's a nice spectrum of people with their tastes and what they appreciate with the stories that are presented to them. I love that. That's fantastic. Having everything all one in unison is kind of boring. I mean, that's why I love fandoms in general, because no matter what fandom you go to, there's always disagreements about something or interpretations about something. So, and that makes for some fascinating conversations, others arguments. But it also allows you to show a certain level of investment in the world that was created for those stories. And that's what makes stories powerful. That's why we have them, and that's why they're so integral to our society. So, with that, Price, do you have any final thoughts before we call it a show?
No, I don't. I think that we really covered it well. I don't think I have additional thoughts. I am happy that you invited me for this one, and it was an interesting script because, I think that there have been times that we absolutely had ones that we thought were really terrible. I feel like that happens more often than not, and we're just like, we'll never greenlight it. This is the worst. Or we very rarely have one that we're like, well, it's kind of all right, I guess. This was a strange one because it was more of a mixed feelings one that I've had than a lot of the other ones we've done. But ultimately, I think that we are both sort of on the same page about the viability of it, and I like that as well. And even like you said, even the people watching this had this kind of mixed feelings towards it. So we all kind of saw it the same, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I will say that, for the last, I would say, let's see, we're episode 106, and I would say for the last 54 episodes, 32 of them were double greenlights by you, me, and all the other co-hosts. I would say that's a really good ratio, and it comes to like the quality of the scripts that we got for last season and for the earlier start of this season. So I would say, like, yeah, in some cases, sometimes it feels more like we've got more more passes than green lights. But the numbers are in, and it's the green lights are still winning. So it's not too unfortunate that we have a pass from the host for the show for this episode today. But it is kind of comforting to know that a lot of the scripts that are going around that we're able to read are clearly more good than bad. So, and the question is whether or not they go the distance and, grace our screens is one thing, but we can always cross our fingers that at least the talent behind those ones that were double green lights, get a shot at another story that may get to the screens and may, bring a lot of joy and happiness to the people that watch them. And that's something we got to keep an eye out for, because if we don't know it exists, we can't support it. And if we can't support it, then the people that finance these things aren't going to invest in them in the future. And then we're going to get more of those passes than we do those green lights. And only this time money will be involved, and it will be wasting our time on our movie screen or TV screen or computer screen or whatever screen you're using to get your art fix, your film fix. So, with that being said, Bryce, thank you again so much for joining me this Saturday. It's always a blast having you here. And
always fun to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Anytime I can, I definitely will. And now that we're kind of like really underway with, I guess, technically season 3 of the show, we'll get some more scripts going on. Next week will be a recorded show because it is Valentine's Day, and I don't want to get in trouble. So
makes sense, yeah.
So that will be a recorded show. But swing on back here if you want to check it out when it premieres on Saturday. Otherwise, you'll be able to watch it on the replay. Enjoy a wonderful Valentine's Day weekend next week. But we will be back the week after next with another amazing script. Hopefully, a green light. But if it's a pass, we will definitely inform you as to why it is a pass. I want to thank everyone listening on the live show, and especially Darren M. for moderating the chat. He's a whiz at it, because you guys out there are such amazing people. You're not rude. You're not disrespectful. You don't need moderation, but just in the event that someone tries to squeeze in here and cause a ruckus, we got good old Darren M. to help us with that as well, and it's much appreciated. With that being said, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. We'll be back live the week after next. And never forget, when it comes to great story, it all starts with the script.